conservation organization and have been open since 1972. Does anybody know how old we are? We are 51. In May of this year, we will be 52. Our sister organization, the San Diego Zoo in downtown San Diego, is over 100 years old. Together we formed the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, help save an endangered species all around the world. Now, while we are out on tour today, we are going to be discussing adaptations and how the animals use them to live and thrive, survive in their natural habitats, their homes where they live. Now, adaptations can be physical, but they can also be behavioral, and we'll be seeing examples of both of these throughout the tour today. Now, in case you didn't know or haven't been here before, the San Diego Zoo Safari Park is a total of 1,800 acres. That's 1,800 acres. Ooh. Look what we have coming up right over here on the passenger side. This is the Rhino Rescue Center. So what do you think we're going to see? Wrong. We're going to see 5,000-pound puppy dogs. No, I'm kidding. Yes, we will be seeing some rhinos. And these are the southern white rhinos right over here on the passenger side. Some of them you get to see them up front in the face. Some of them you're just seeing cute rhino butts as well. Now, one of the purposes of the Rhino Rescue Center is to study the way that rhinos reproduce. Why do we want to study the ways that rhinos reproduce? Well, unfortunately, not just the southern white rhino, but all rhino species in the world are endangered, which means that there's not a lot of them left. So by studying the way that they reproduce gives us more information to help not only the southern white rhinos, but all rhinos increase in numbers. Now, as we go ahead and leave the Rhino Rescue Center, can I get everybody to flash a peace sign at the rhinos? Come on, everybody, help me out. Flash a peace sign. How many fingers are you holding up?
2.
2? Well, guess what? Their cousin, the northern white rhinos, that's how many are left in the entire world. 2. They are both females. One's the mother, one's the daughter. They are both past breeding age. The last male northern white rhino passed away pre-COVID. So unfortunately, as a species, they are what we call functionally extinct. We're not going to get any more little babies from them. However, we saw some of our female southern white rhinos at the Rhino Rescue Center. Well, guess what? We actually have stem cells of the northern white rhino here at the park. And what you can do with stem cells is usually you can take them and make any cells you need. That's what the body uses them for. So what we are in the process of doing is creating northern white rhino embryos. We are going to implant them in our southern white rhino females, use them as surrogate mothers for northern white rhinos. Hopefully when you come back in about 5 to 10 years, you'll see a little baby northern white rhino running around the park. Now, our ultimate goal is to be able to create a herd of northern white rhinos large enough that we can begin to release them back out into their natural habitats in Africa. And you, by coming into one of our 2 front doors, that is the kind of thing you're helping out with. Now, I did say that we are 1,800 acres. If you take a look over here on our driver's side, this is our largest habitat. This is our South African habitat, and it is roughly between 35 to 40 acres. But if you take a look over here on the passenger side, we have various different bird species. Yeah. The ones that are white with the lower part black feathers with the yellow beaks, those are yellow-billed storks. In the front over here, looks like they have a little crown of feathers. Those are African crown cranes. And then over here in the middle, several different species of our vultures. The ones that are almost all black with a kind of a pinkish head, those are lappet-faced vultures. The one over here that is more white and black on the log over there and on the rocks, which is just spreading its wings, that is a Ruppell's vulture. And then the one that is kind of like a pale white, really light brown, that is a Cape vulture. Now, one thing that all of these vultures have in common is that they eat carrion. Does anybody know what carrion is?
Dead animals, carcasses.
You've probably smelt it before. It's the dead and decaying carcass of an animal. So, does it smell really good or does it smell really bad?
Real bad.
Smells really bad, right? Smells really bad because it's decaying.
I probably just said.
Spoiled meat, in other words. So they eat spoiled meat, which can generate a lot of germs and bacteria like salmonella. Salmonella causes food poisoning, which can make many other animals sick. So one of the ways that they get around this is because of their stomach acid and their stomach bacteria. Strong enough that it kills pretty much up to 90% of all germs and bacteria. So they really have no issues about eating spoiled meat. They're the cleanup crew of Africa, going in there cleaning up after all the dead animals so that the other predators like lions, leopards, hyenas, cheetahs don't get sick. Now I said that carrion smells pretty bad, and that's the way that vultures find their food. Some birds use their eyesight. Vultures that eat carrion use their sense of smell. Now right over here on the driver's side, kind of a lavender grayish color, really long, straight horns. These are the Hemsbok. They're a desert antelope and they live in the Kalahari Desert. Now we're going to do a little survey right here. Look at all of the Hemsbok right next to us. You'll notice every single one of them has horns, right? So what do you think? By show of hands, how many of you think that these are males? All right, how many of you think that these are females? Well, guess what? Every single one of these are females. But yet, they have horns. What's going on? Why do female antelopes have horns? In a species like them,
Protection.
they live in the desert. What does all life need that is really hard to find out in the desert? You need water and you need your food, right? Well, both the male and females have these horns because even within their own group, they need to compete or fight with each other for that food and water. Now in a species like the Hemsbok, both the male and females do look exactly alike. Same size, same color, both have horns. Now one thing that I want everybody to be on the alert, look around, use your adaptations, your eyesight. We're going to be on the look for a 5-month-old baby Maasai giraffe. Anybody want to see a Maasai giraffe, baby?
Yeah.
So we're coming up to some of our giraffes, so make sure you're looking really hard to find that little baby. Now that baby's going to be really easy to find because it is definitely a lot shorter than the adults. Now if you do spot the little baby, raise your hands. Ooh, looks like we're seeing our little one over here. So let me pull a little bit farther forward so we can get a real good look at the little baby with the rest of the Maasai giraffe herd. And a group of giraffes like the one we're looking at are called a tower of giraffes. Now do you see this really tall one right here? The one that's almost completely black? That's Dad. The little baby, his name is Elliot. So, a male giraffe, like Gowon over here, can get up to 18 feet tall. Females, like Elliot's mom, between 14 to 16 feet tall. Now look at Elliot over here. When he was born, he was about 5.5 to 6 feet tall. Now why do you think a baby giraffe needs to be born 5.5 to 6 feet tall?
To eat from mommy's.
How is baby going to nurse from mom? Mom's not going to kneel down. Mom's not going to lay down. So the baby giraffe needs to be about 5.5 to 6 feet tall to reach milk. Now, at 5 months of age, How many of you, by show of hands, think that Elliot is 7 feet tall? How many of you think that Elliot is 8 feet tall? By show of hands, how many of you think that Elliot is 5,280 feet tall? Anybody? 1 mile tall. Woohoo! How many of you think little Elliot is already 9 feet tall? At about 5 months of age, he's already 9 feet tall and still going up. Now, because they are so tall, what do you think they eat?
Leaves.
Look out in the field. What out here is taller than a giraffe? The trees. What are on trees? Leaves. That's what they eat. So unlike our Hemsbach that have to compete for that food and water, all they have to do is be a tree in the area with some leaves, and they don't have to worry about competing with any other animals. Also coming up, we have some of our Cape Buffalo right over here on the driver's side. This is an all-female group.
Huh?
Now while we're going up this hill, if you take a look over here on the passenger side, a lot of this is all local native plants. This is all part of one of our hubs. In fact, this is our Southwest hub. Now what is a hub? A hub is where we concentrate our efforts to help save endangered species, both the animals and the plants. And look right over here on the driver's side, right as we're going up the hill. 2 of our southern white rhinos, 2 more. One of them is Alice. She is about a 5-year-old rhino. She was born here at the park. The other rhino is Hazani, and she came to us from the Fresno Zoo. We also have 2 male gravy zebras over here as well. Now again, over here on the passenger side, this is all part of our local native hub. It's called the Southwest Hub. Now what you're seeing over here is some trees, different grasses. A little bit farther on, you'll see some cactus, some agave. But also, what you're looking at are some of our bushes, groups of bushes, and that is, one of them is called the coastal sage scrub. And unfortunately for the coastal sage scrub, there is only 10 to 15% of its habitat left in the world, and it only grows in Southern California and Baja California. Now coming up right over here on our passenger side, this is our African forest habitat. And you're seeing, of course, some of our ducks that are living in there, a pelican in there. Now, both of these birds right here, these species, they are native birds to San Pasqual Valley. They're not ours. But they live here because they know plenty of food to go around for everybody, and we do keep fish in our ponds. So that's why that pelican is here.
They're not part of the zoo. We just came.
Many of the animals we've seen throughout here with different adaptations. Also, plants have adaptations that help them live and thrive in their specific habitats where they live. And those adaptations help them live and thrive in that specific habitat. Take, for example, if you're out hiking somewhere, mountain hiking, hiking in the snow, you'll see different types of animals and plants. You want to make sure that while you're out there, to leave everything the way that it is, the way that you find it. Because if you take a plant home, if you take an animal home, they might not have the specific adaptations they do need to live and thrive in the area where you're bringing them to. Now some animals and plants have what we call a parasitic relationship with an animal or a plant, but there's also symbiotic relationships. Now, a parasitic relationship is where an animal or a plant lives off another animal and plant. There is no positive back and forth between both the animal or the plant. The parasitic plant or animal just keeps taking everything from the host plant or animal. Take, for example, over here on the passenger side, if you take a look up on the top of the tree, kind of looks like some orangish hair on the top of that tree. That is called witch's hair. It is actually a parasitic plant and living off of everything that would normally feed the plant it's living off of. So it's basically taken all the nutrients that that plant would be using for itself. You can kind of consider it just like a virus. Now take, for example, right over here on our driver's side, we're passing by. Take a look at this tree. What do you see on this tree? Lots and lots of thorns, right? Well, this tree is using those thorns to protect itself. All a thorn is it's a modified leaf. But some insects create a symbiotic relationship with a plant. Take, for example, those thorns can be a home for some ants, an ant colony. Now, what those ants do is that it protects the tree from other animals that would try to eat those leaves. So they're protecting the tree. What does the tree do to reward the ants, to pay it back for protecting that tree? It provides sweet sap that those ants use in their colony. Right over here, right below us on the driver's side, dark brown, these are our sable antelope. And just like our Hemsbach, they too live in an area where there's not a lot of food and water. So guess what? They all have horns. These are all the females. So just like the Hemsbach, they have to compete with the males for that food and water. But they also eat grass. They're grazers. And some of the grasses that they eat have a very hard outer shell, the seeds that live in those grasses. And by them eating those grasses with the seeds is the only way that those grasses can germinate, those seeds, to be able to create more grass. Because they need to eat it, those seeds go into the stomach, their stomach acids soften up those shells, and then where do you think those grass seeds come out? Well, they have to come out some way, so they come out and poop, their feces. Now, their poop or their feces acts as fertilizer to help germinate those seeds. Now, if you got coming up right over here on our passenger side, one of two domesticated species we have here at the park. We are looking at some of our Ankole cattle.
Yeah, longhorn bulls.
Now, what is the very first thing you happen to notice about the Ankole cattle? Is it those horns, maybe?
Yes.
Well, I want you to take a look at the bench you're sitting on right now. From one door to the other door is how wide their horns can be. Now, they are raised by the Ankole tribesmen of Africa, and they are considered a status symbol. So they are raised for their milk, not their meat. And for the Ankole tribesmen, it is the more Ankole cattle you have, the more wealthier you are perceived. It's like if you go into a friend or family member's garage and you see a bunch of Lamborghinis and Maseratis. Now, one of their adaptations is, of course, just their huge size. But out in Africa, it can get very hot during the daytime, right? You need a way to cool down. For our Ancoli cattle, they basically have built-in radiator for themselves. What does a radiator do in the car? Helps keep that engine cool. So those horns look very heavy, right? But actually those horns aren't as heavy as you would think, because those horns are honeycombed. And as blood vessels go through those honeycombs, when the wind comes by and brushes those horns, it cools down the blood in those horns, which in turn helps keep them cool. Now we are passing by the Rhino Rescue Center again that we saw in the beginning. So over here on the driver's side, won't be able to stop, but if you take a look, you might be able to get a good look at some of our rhinos over there again, unless they've gotten called back into their back rooms. We are nearing the end of our tour. Coming back to the tram station. I do have to bring you back after all, because some of you have left your strollers, wheelchairs, mobility devices, wagons. You can be able to pick those up and continue on your tour. But there is one more habitat left. It's going to be right over here on our passenger side. This is our East African habitat, where we are going to see some more giraffes. We saw the Maasai giraffes earlier. The giraffes that are in this habitat are the common giraffe. We're also looking at some more of our Cape buffaloes. So let's get a real good look at these two giraffes feeding on a branch that used to have leaves, because some of our wildlife care specialists came out here and left those branches for them. But it looks like the giraffes have pretty much cleaned it off. So they're just trying to get just a little bit whatever's left of it.
Look at their big old tongues. Look at their nose.
Now coming up over here, as well on the passenger side up there on the hill, some of our female roan antelopes. Also up on the grassy hill just a little bit farther forward, some more of our southern white rhinos. Now that truck you happen to see way up top, green cab, wood side, canvas roof, that's one of our additional tours. That is a wildlife safari. Now as you can see, it does take you in the habitat with the animals, so you do get a lot closer. Now if you're interested in a tour like that, once we get back to the tram station, once you exit, there is a ticket booth. That's where you can inquire the times and how much it costs. My name is Sam. Hopefully you enjoyed your tour today. Hopefully you learned a lot of information about the different animals we've seen. Now what I'm hoping you do with this information is take it home with you, pass it along to your family and friends. When I pass along this information, this is what makes each and every single one of you so important to us. This is what makes you all an ally for wildlife. Now, while we've been out here today, we've been talking about adaptations and how the animals use them to live and thrive, survive in their habitat. Some animals, both the males and females, use their horns to compete for food in the water, like our cannon fox, our sable antelopes. And we're coming back to the tram station. Please wait until I do come to a full and complete stop. Once I do come to a full and complete stop, then you're free to exit on your right-hand side, and on your right-hand side only. You can do this by reaching over the door, grabbing that knob, and sliding it to the front. I'll be in the front to answer any questions you may have. Thank you for visiting the safari park today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, I'm part.